Dankie, Jaco. Thank you. So it's so good for me to be here because I'm staying with my friend Jaco and Philip and myself and Jaco. We've known each other for 26 years. This baie lank. It's a lot. It's a big part of my life. So it's amazing to be here and to be with you. Not many of you that I know, but it's good. I want to. How many of you are here for this is your first marriage enrichment day? How many of you? Just keep those hands raised. I have a friend, Dale. Thanks. I have a friend. Dis baie van julle. I have a friend, Dale. He works in emergency, in ER, in hospital in Plattekloof. And whenever he sees there's a young girl or a young person that is really afraid to get stitches, then he can see this girl is really tense. So he says, "Is this your first time?" And she says, "Yes, doctor, this is my first time." He says, "Don't be afraid. It's my first time as well." So it's my first time as well to present a marriage seminar. My laptop is in the wrong way. See, this is how we start. But I don't have it on my heart to share today. We grow because we get more information. That is true. More information opens your mind to new ideas, to new things. So first time you hear something new, it broadens your expectation and it broadens that which is possible. So it's amazing. So you will probably gain a little bit more information today. But since most of us are older than 19, the stuff that I'm going to share with you might just be packaged differently, the truths that you know. So this is not the first time that you will be exposed to new stuff. But the fact that we do give the day attention to growing in relationship with this spouse of mine, that's the win. So I'm going to give us lots of opportunity today. I see that you spaced all at the back. It's amazing. We do the same in Cape Town. You pack out the first 2 rows just to know that the people will not sit here. They will sit there. So there will be opportunity for you. So I just want you that, I was just thinking about this. I was thinking that we have people that have kids that are 40 years old. We have people that have kids that are 2 weeks old. We have people that are pregnant at the moment with their second one. We have people that, you are still praying for children, or you're uncertain whether you should have children because you remember what type of teenager you were, and you're wondering whether you should do this to yourself. And then we have, so we come with different expectations and different ideas to this day. And I want you to be kind to yourself. I don't want to sound like a new ager, but I really want you to be kind to yourself and to your spouse today, and to trust that God is in this house. We're going to pray together now, but to trust that God is in this house, and that maybe really God brought you here to build into you today. Maybe the big conflict that the two of you are constantly facing, maybe God in His presence will not give you a tip today to fix this, but will do something in your hearts. And this is my expectation, that we have come to the house of God. We've come to God, the Father of love, who will build something in us. And I really just want you to just trust in God's ability to build into you and God's ability to strengthen you today. I want to maybe just share a little bit about myself. It's just a little bit, Philip, there is a slide that just shows my family. It's an old slide because, I don't know, we struggle to get all 4 of us on a picture these days. So this picture's a little bit older. It's me and Margriet and Nathan and Marguerite. And Nathan is 10 years old now, so he's a little bit older than in the picture. And he's a little designer. I don't want to say engineer, but designer. So he loves designing stuff, and when you give him a moment, he draws something. The kids, your kids know so much more than you do. This week he introduced me to the concept of axolotls. I didn't know that the thing existed. He started drawing pictures of axolotls, and I thought this is one of those things that he imagines. But no, it's a real thing. They grow 45 centimeters in the south of Mexico in lakes, and they look like little aliens. You can Google that even while we talk. I'll be happy that you do that, because I've never known. You spell it axolotl. So it's a Mexican word, and it's a weird thing. So he knows everything about axolotls, and he introduces me to the concept of axolotls. And I'm thinking, where did you get to know about axolotls? Anyway, so Marguerite is our little athlete and our little dancer and our little helper. She's one of those teacher pets kids in class. But she's like that everywhere. She just wants to help anyone. And she just, when one of her friends, gets a little bruise or something, she's the one that picks her up and takes her to teacher and say, teacher, see, she's bleeding. And, so she's like that. So she's a delightful little girl that cannot sit still. I've never, one of the parenting things, I know this is not a parenting course, but just so that you can know my family a little bit and trust me. So I told Yaku last night, you memorized the Lord's, the shepherd psalm when I was, 7 years old. Die Here is my herder. Hy sal my laat neerlê. But I never understood it until I had a boy named Nathan, who was 6 years old. And I had to get him to the point where I say, the Lord is my shepherd. He will make me lie down in peace. so my kids have taught me a lot about the Bible and about God. I will make you lie down. There's no tyd om te slaap. There's no tyd om te slaap. Anyway, so yeah. So let's just settle and pray, and then I'm gonna. So today, maybe just before I start. So today, I really prayed, and I thought, what would be helpful for my marriage? What will be helpful for me? What will be good? And there are 3 things. So we're going to talk about cultivating an environment of affection, warmth, and encouragement in the house. Jim Burns, old teaching. But how do we do that? How do we cultivate an environment of affection, warmth, and encouragement? And I want to say to those that have younger children, school-going children, not affection, warmth, and encouragement towards the children first, but towards my spouse, because we are so children-focused and our lives are oriented. So how do I cultivate affection, warmth, and encouragement with this person that I said, I will love you all my days? How do we cultivate that environment in a high-stress, high-movement environment? So we're going to look at cultivating intimacy, cultivating peace. How do we have those difficult conversations? So today, maybe you've never had a conflict, but you know of friends that have conflict in their marriage. So just take notes for your friends, and you can tell them later. For the rest of them, we will practice it in here. And then lastly, this afternoon, we're going to cultivate hope. How do we have, if hope really is a picture, if hope really is how you orientate your life, how you organize your life about that which you expect will happen, hope. What is the hope of your marriage? Like, have you sat down and written down since you got married? Before we get married, we have that, the picture of where we're going to. We've got hope. We get married in hope. But what is the hope like? And literally just we're going to draw a picture. You're going to draw a picture of where we're going to. What is it that we desire to go into? So for the men, I will make a joke every now and then. For the ladies, I will share something emotional every now and then. And you will have an amazing time. Excuse for stereotyping you. So maybe just if you to put down stuff, we're going to pray now. I'm going to lead you in a reflective prayer. And so nothing strange is going to happen. I'm just going to lead you to pray about certain things softly. You're welcome to pray under your breath if you feel comfortable, and you can. You don't have to move your mouth in prayer. I always believe that you have to. But I'm going to lead you to pray. But before that, maybe just close your eyes, and I want you to just to become not firstly aware of God who is here. And I want to ask you this question. In which way is the Lord looking at you right now? Just want to give you a moment just to discern the presence and the person of God who is with you, who brought you here. How is the Lord looking at you right now? I want you to take a moment and tell the Lord how you feel like, because He's looking at you like this right now. Tell Him what you feel like, because He's looking at you like this. And then I just want you to locate your spirit, your emotions. What do you feel at the moment about today? Sitting right here next to your spouse in a marriage seminar. What are the feelings that you have? Feelings, various feelings. What are the fears that you have? What are the desires that you have? What other feelings did you bring in there? Just to say, God, these are my feelings. This is what I feel like about today. Just to tell that to the Lord. And then lastly, what is the one thing that you desire, the grace that you desire of God, that you receive as a person or as a couple? What is the one desire that you ask of, the grace that you need of God for today? Just ask the Lord for that. Ask it in a way in which you will receive it. Amen. Father, we thank you for this day. I thank you, Lord, that we are in the presence of God the Father and His love, the Lord Jesus Christ and His grace that is available to us, and the joyful, peaceful presence, the comforting presence of the Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. You're welcome to kiss your spouse just on the side of the cheek or maybe on the lips at the moment, just to say we're going for this. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. It is true. A few years ago, I wrote an article just because I did research. I didn't know this. But you know, the fact that you are married today, so I assume everyone here is married. Otherwise, it would be awkward, no? We had this friend, Philip remembers this friend, Tinas, who always asks, when we announced marriage preparation, he always asks, is it okay, can I come alone? Is it necessary for me to bring the same girl to marriage prep every week? so we said, Tinas, maybe just wait for the next course. Just for the next course. Until someone can commit to 8 dates, that will be a sign that you can marry her. But it's amazing that that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. It is true that the fact that you are married to someone, statistically, you will live longer than same type of person who's unmarried. You will be healthier, like have a longer, not just longer, but a healthier mentally and physically. They say that people who are married are less prone to get infectious diseases, for anything from heart disease, anything from cancer, anything from even the normal flu, COVID. The fact that you are married makes you more immune to sicknesses. It also proves that you will have a better job than a single person straight throughout the world. They call it discrimination or whatever. I just call it the favor of God. The fact that you are married says that probably you will earn more money than a single person. It's amazing. I can tell you from my personal research that being married also means you will spend your money less foolishly than your bachelor friends. That's also true. But greater safety, greater security, more wealth, greater income, be happier, live longer. It's amazing. So it is true that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But the next proverb also says is true for us, that this is, some of you weren't brought up on a farm, but you have a brain. Where there are no ox and the manger is clean, but with the strength of an ox, a big harvest is brought in. It says greater success or whatever, depending on your translation. But this is also true, that if you want a simpler life, if you want a more selfish, simple life, probably staying single is better. less complex, simpler life. You will produce less, it won't have such a great effect. But I love the proverb here. It just says that if there's an ox in the stable, there will be poo. We're going to have to deal with the poo. The stable will not remain clean the whole time, so we will have to deal with poo. So today we will not deal that much with poo, but the reality is that you come here. Some of you came here on marriage prep because Philip said you had to come. Some of you came here because the poo to pleasure ratio at the moment in your marriage is not that great, the poo to production ratio. So this is true. I love it. The Focus on the Family said that there are three international survey over the years, to say over and over, that there are three big areas. So we're not going to touch all three big areas today, but we'll touch on it, but we won't focus on all three of them. That what people say they need help within a marriage is to say that we don't have sufficient or pleasurable sex. We thought it would be amazing. I'd get married and we'll have sex 6 times a week or 7 times a week or twice a day. That's what they thought. And 5 years down the line, maybe this is not exactly what you're experiencing. It was less complex at the beginning when you were on honeymoon, but it's now more complex. And, it's like a fighting and stuff about that. So that's the first one. The second one they're saying is that conflict. Couples struggle to resolve conflict. And when conflict is, we fight about the same thing over, or we fight about everything the whole time. It's like they struggle. The marriage does not have the joy it used to because of conflict. And the third thing is just, it seems as though there's no life in their communication. We have a task-driven communication. Who's going to get the kids? Who's going to feed the what? Who's going to run where? Who's going to pay the bills? So it's just the organizing of the life. So today we're going to touch on 2 of those, and we're going to talk about the intimacy, which we trust and hope will lead to you having more pleasurable, more frequent sex. So we hope for that, but I won't focus on that. The first session, I'm not going to open the Bible that much, but in the next 2 sessions, I'll open the Bible more. So for those who just brought your Bibles, we will open it in the second and third session more. James says, peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of goodness. I love the Message translation of that. It says that you can develop a healthy, robust, it says community. For today, I made the community really, really small, marriage. You can develop a healthy, robust marriage with God and enjoy its results only if you do the hard work of getting along with each other, treating each other with dignity and honor. But I love the original version. It just says that, the literal translation. It says that if you want to enjoy shalom in your home, in your marriage, it means there must be an intentionality about sowing seeds of peace. If you want to cultivate peace in your house, shalom, the idea of goodness, wellness, the idea of pleasure, of joy, absence of hostility, absence of conflict. If you want to cultivate that, it means that there must be something intentionally that you sow. And that's why I thought about today that we talk about, and you're going to talk with one another, but how can I cultivate affection, warmth, and encouragement, an environment of shalom, a baseline environment of shalom? The Proverbs writer is right when it says that we will most certainly have to deal with the effects of having a cow in the house, of having an ox in the house. We are going to have to clean up some bit. There will always be cleanup because we'll be 2 different people. There will be poo in the house. But how do we raise the temperature in the house? How do we set the climate of having a baseline of affection, warmth, and encouragement so that when we miss one another, or when there's a week where we're really stressed and work hard and we don't have that much heart-to-heart connection, it's okay because the baseline is affection, warmth, and encouragement. And I think if you look at older couples, all of them will say we have to work at a marriage the whole time. But eventually they say that over time they have cultivated rhythms, practices in their house that gives dignity, honor, respect, and just deference to the other one. Affection, warmth, and encouragement. That's where we're going to today. That's what we're going to do. Create joyful intimacy through a culture of affection, warmth, and encouragement. Affection, We're going to do a quick test now for you. Affection, a basic need is to be loved, cherished, delighted. Show endearment through touch, kisses, gifts, tender words. While I'm talking, I want you just to think about not your spouse's habits. I want you to think about your habits. Okay, so for this first part of the thing, I just want you to, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. Just look at the man in the mirror. Don't look at the spouse or look at the woman in the mirror. Maar kyk net na yourself. And I want you to, it's true. Marriage is more joyful in those seasons where we have habits of affection. Affection is shown, we know this, I don't have to say this to you. Affection is shown in holding one another, sitting with one another, arm around, hand on the lip. Over years, and especially the first few years that you have smaller kids, there's someone that constantly comes between us, and that's why we don't have hands on one another the whole time. That is true. And I think what happens, my personal observation from me and Margriet, so Margriet and myself, we married 17 years this year. Since so lankie, 17 years. So I've known Jaco and Philip for longer than I've known Margriet. It's amazing, né? Well, I met you pretty much the same time. But ons het nooit gesoen en hande vasgehou en sulke goed nie. But it's amazing that Margriet and myself, it's actually with the coming of the second child that usually your hands are so busy and your attention is so off one another for the real reason of you have to keep your kid alive. That's good, no? But because of that, we have grown out of a habit of affection, of touching, of kissing, of holding, because maybe we're tired, we haven't slept for 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe it's just the fact that I'm always showing affection to this little one and I'm handing the affection to the baby to you. It's a very practical thing. So we were married for 7 years. Nathan was born and Marguerite wasn't pregnant with Marguerite yet. And then Margriet started specializing in pediatrics. So we had a very easy 7 years. So the first 7 years for ons was baie maklik. We've known one another for 5 years. We were dating and it was baie maklik. We had an easy life. It was regtig lekker in ons huis because we were friends and we went on so many mission trips together. There was no surprise. We had no surprises when we got married. We've known each other for so long. And then Nathan was born. We planted the urban church and the Durbanville church in that year. And Margriet started specializing in pediatrics, studying and working late hours. And after about 3 months, I'm like, Here, wie is hierdie vrou? What did you do with my wife? She turned into someone else, and she was saying the same thing. She's like, I don't like you very much. I don't like who you are. And I'm like, ja, maar is jy? And she said, yes, ek. Anyway, so it wasn't really helpful. But it's amazing. It was really, really difficult. And it was difficult for me because we weren't used to having a difficult relationship. I wasn't used to fighting with my wife the whole time. We had conflict, but it's like the baseline was easy. And I remember us, for 2 or 3 occasions, we went through to our friends Deval and Danelle in Malmesbury. They're pastors and they're friends of ours, and we drive, and I said, we brought you our marriage, will you please fix it? I don't know, I want to go home with a nice woman again, it's like, and then we talk about, it's just funny, we don't, she's not nice with me, and we don't have sex very much, and so we had all these conversations with them, and it really came down to cultivating habits of showing affection. When you call someone a gentleman, ladies, or someone a gentle person, it really comes down to a few practical habits that the person has orientated his life around, shaped his life, organized his life. It's someone who stands up and greets the person. It's someone who allows a habit of making you walk first. It's a habit of bringing you a gift. It's a habit of pulling out the chair and putting it down. It's very practical habits, which creates the idea that I am cherished and safe with this person. And it's really simple. It's a bunch of habits. It comes from a heart. You don't even know whether this person likes doing these habits. It's amazing. If it's your spouse, you will know. But mostly you don't know. It's just a habit. This person must show these things to you. But if it comes from a heart of me wanting to show honor to you, it really comes down to a few habits. So Maybe just this Daniel Migliori, beautiful. He's a little bit liberal. There I said it, didn't want to say, but he's a little bit liberal at times, his theology. But he's a systematic theologian. And studying the Trinity, he's after writing and studying what the nature of God as three in one, one of his summaries, he says, well, it really comes down to the fact, what does it help us if we know that God is three but one? He says, this is what it is. It says, it helps us to understand that God is eternally self-giving, other-regarding, community-forming love. This is what we know of the nature of God. And whenever I read that, I'm thinking, God, I hope that I will take on your nature in my marriage, that I will always be that our home will be a self-giving, other-regarding, community-forming home. This is who we are. This is what we do. And you know, if it comes from both sides, it's always easier. But someone starts it. So, affection, warmth. Warmth really speaks about showing kindness. It really speaks about turning your heart to the other one. We cultivate an atmosphere of warmth because you have my attention. You have my attention and you have my goodwill. I'm here for you. I'm here present towards you. I want to be with you. And that results in me wanting to show you kindness. It can flow over into affection, but warmth is just an atmosphere, an attitude that I bring my heart to you and my gentleness. I want to be with you. It's friendliness of a face. I remember one day coming home during that time. So it just means our baseline was good at some point. Because I came home and I was on the phone, and perhaps you've caused the same thing with Philip or Jaco, but one of the members in our community, I was on the phone with him, and I was so angry after the phone call. I'm like, I cannot believe this person is doing it again. You know, I had that song in my head, oops, I did it again. But it's like, this person did it again. I cannot believe. It's like, and I got off the phone. I wasn't angry at the person on the phone. I wasn't disrespectful, but I come off the phone, but I was angry. So I opened the door in our house, our smaller house that we had in. It's a very small house. And I opened the door, and it's like there's a living space and a kitchen. And Margriet was at the kitchen, and I came through the door with this vibe. And she looked at me, and she smiled, and she says, Ross, don't you just want to stop there, take that face outside, and come in friendly, because you're actually happy to see me. And in that moment, I go like, yes, reg. So I stopped, and I walk outside, and I just prayed for a minute under the tree, and I decided to be friendly, and I walked inside the house and hello, Margriet, hoe gaan het? And she goes like, hi, liefling. And she walks over, and she kisses me. We had a moment. Yeah? It's amazing. We laughed, but the point is, it is such a simple decision to be friendly. It's a decision to really choose to be with you in this moment and leave that flippant member that messes up his marriage, but be with my wife now. Says, I want to be with you. I can sing a song about that as well. Anyway, but it's a decision. Show kindness through friendliness and caring. And it also means warmth means we cultivate. We preserve this warmth by acknowledging, wow, I was really wrong to you, and I'm sorry. Would you forgive me? And then she has to, because she's Christian, she has to forgive me, and we move on. It's like sometimes it takes a bit longer. I acknowledge that, even for me, to move on, but it's a decision. Okay, so warmth, encouragement, affection, hugs, kisses, gifts, practices that shows that I cherish you. Maybe just on that point. Love, we often say, we ask, did your parents love you? And when we do the encounters, and everyone always says, my parents loved me. And then you listen to their story, and I'm like, are you sure you feel loved by your... Yeah, I know, because he cared for me. I mean, he gave me a house and a place to live, and I'm going like, okay, so can I rephrase that question? How often did you feel that your dad delighted in you, that he enjoyed being with you, that he came to you because he wanted to be with you? And I want to ask you the same question. When you talk about showing, do you love your spouse? I don't want to ask, do you tolerate her, are you with her? I want to ask, do you enjoy her and delight in her? And do you feel that she delights in you? So that affection and warmth, and then the encouragement bit. And this is so good. This is something that I must say over the years, my kids walk in and say, Marguerite would say, "Sjoe, papa, jy lyk maar baie mooi vandag." And I'm like, wow, where did you learn this? And it's like, oh, she picked it up from mom, because mom has a culture of affirmation and encouragement. It's a verbal culture that she acquired. Encouragement through being available emotionally and physically, creating safe environment of trust through an attitude or words of affirmation and encouragement. It's just being with you. It's just cheering you on. And when I say this affection, warmth, and encouragement, if you move away from your spouse, your attention, and just to those of you who still have kids in the home, and just take it to your children, you can see what this would do to your children. Obviously, a lot of you, most of us, have many of these practices. It's going in your house, né? But if it's intentional to cultivate this affection, warmth, and encouragement in your home, you can see what it would do to your children to live in such an environment. Confidence, joy, happy to come home. And it really comes down to a few basic practices that you practice, that you initiate in the home. Now imagine just the stirring in your hearts if this was true for you. So I want to ask you just to, if you have a piece of pen, it will be helpful. Some of you are just brilliant, so you just keep it in your head or on your phone, make a note on your phone. But it will be helpful if you would write affection in our marriage. So leave the home. Los die kinders hier uit. Los die kinders vir eers. Hier is nou hele dag. So in your marriage, just for yourself, what is the temperature of affection? Philip, I think there's a slide that just shows a picture. I think so. One or two, two down. Thanks. Just to write down, scale of 1 to 10. I want you to scale it. Scale of 1 to 10. What is the temperature of affection in our marriage at the moment? I didn't ask 2 years ago when you were on honeymoon or something, but now, at this moment, what is it like? This past week, affection. Do we have a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or 3 out of 10? Same for warmth. How warm? How much kindness? How much comfort, companionship do we enjoy in the home? How warm is the environment when I walk in or when I wake up? There's a song about when I wake up as well. I'm not going to sing that. And encouragement, the same. How encouraged do I feel? How encouraged does my spouse feel in our home environment? Is it more critical? Is it more encouraging? Where are we? Just literally scale it. And before you talk to your spouse, I want to ask you, for each one of these three, what would move it up a notch? Not perfect, but what would move it up? What is the one habit that I can do, that you can do, to increase the affection in your house? One habit that you inhabit. Think of a daily habit. What is one daily habit that I can do to increase affection? Just a little bit. What is one daily habit? And then think about the thing that has the greatest impact. What will have that great impact in our marriage? What is one thing that I can do to increase warmth in my house? One habit. What is one habit that will increase encouragement in my habit, or in my house? I'm going to give you 12 minutes as a couple. So if you feel comfortable, maybe just to move, that there's a little bit of space between you and another couple. And maybe just give you a tip. For those of us that are, and Marguerite and myself were there, so that's what I'm saying. For those of us that are at the moment a little bit stuck in a less than optimistic culture in our house, maybe it's a little bit, you brought your spouse here because you were hoping that Ross would sort him out, okay, or her out. If it's a little bit of friction, just throw one another a softball, Okay, so goeie sagte dien. Throw another softball. So have a soft conversation about how do you perceive it, and if you think, men generally think it's going amazing in a marriage, and women think, wow, where is this guy, then if you're there, then it's fine. Just hear the perspective. You don't have to argue with it. Don't argue, just hear. And then the question is just, what will you do? What can you do? What do you think you can do? One habit that will increase affection. What is the thing that you think you can do? Don't tell him what he should do. Just ask, what will I bring as a gift to our marriage? And celebrate and receive that gift. But listen, I'm serious. This is a habit that I actually want you to really think about, that is doable, repeatable, and it's not too difficult. Don't say, I'll date night every night, Probably not. But, I will kiss you for 3 seconds on the mouth every day that you walk into the house. That's something doable, repeatable, and pleasurable. You can do that. Okay, great. Good. So smile, 12 minutes. Okay. So I heard one or two of you laughing. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. I have this family member. I'm not going to say anything more because Philip is recording. But we have this family member, or someone I know as this family member, that once said on their wedding day, many, many, many years ago, he said to his wife, I love you, and I don't need to say this every day, I'll tell you the moment I changed my mind. So if he was here today, I would recommend saying it at least annually, just grow a little bit. Say I love you annually, like every time you have joking, yeah. So anyway, affection, growth. We cultivate our own shalom through seeds of peace. And seeds of peace are very practical, James, very practical. Very practical habits we do. It is true that we do perhaps have hurts from the past, either in a previous relationship or in this relationship that does spill over. It is possible. But mostly we cultivate seeds of peace by practices, by habitual practices that shapes our character, shapes our attitudes, shapes our thoughts towards one another. And you can really do great. You can really do great by cultivating seeds of peace. By God's grace, we can really show love in practical ways, affection, warmth, and encouragement. So, the Focus on the Family survey, the big survey that they do annually, says that one of the greatest needs that couples have, one of the greatest reasons why they don't find joy in their marriage as perhaps they used to or as they hoped for before they got married, is because communication is stale, is factual, is mostly organized around work things that we have to do in a home. Now, if you have 2 or 3 busy kids and perhaps one or both of you have busy jobs, like I believe all of us have, then we can see why. We are rushed. And we're too busy to actually have time to have hard conversations. So they say that the Smalleys, Greg Smalley and his wife, Irene, they say that there are 4 categories of talk that every couple has, and small talk is that, I love, it's good to see you, like, wow, weather's great today, filled up my tank, it's like that great conversation. And I want to say, don't laugh at that. That is baseline. Every one of those things, the Gottman says, every one of those things is an invitation for you to connect. It's an invitation for connection. So when your husband says, hey, check my pecs, it's like, it's silly and it's funny and it's a desire for connection. How many of you have seen, this is bad now, but how many of you have seen that, what's the movie where The Rock does his little peck dance? What's it? Philip? Yeah, it's op die F4 vir hom, nee. I'm trying to figure out what's the name. But my daughter always, so the other day, she walks in and says, Papa, jy kan mos hierdie doen. Why don't you do this? And her friends were there. And I'm like, not te veel gaan ek nou my hempie uittrek. En sy sê, nee, maar kom wys gou. En ek sê, nee, goeiste. Anyway, it's just too much information. But small talk, so any one of those connections is a desire for connection. And don't rub it off. It's a desire, it's showing that I do want to connect. That's why we have this small talk. Otherwise, I would just ignore you and go on. Work talk is that feed the pet, feed the kids, rush to school, what time will you be home? It's the way in which we talk to organize our environment that shapes the way, it shapes the area in which we will live, in which our hearts can connect. So it's really important. But sadly, this is where most marriages, they say up to 90% of communication in marriages that they survey land in categories 1 and 2. 90%, and it's true that those two areas are void of life-giving communication. Most couples, they say, and that's why the next session I'll talk about, I'll help us to actually think through how can we actually proactively work through conflict resolution. How can we actually have meaningful conflict in which we can build upon rather than hit the wall every time. So, but most of them. So I want to just jump through and just show you the heart talk thing, the heart talk conversation. This is a very old. How many of you have seen any presentation about 5 levels of communication? How many of you have grown in practices of this? Anyone? Philip, I think there's a slide on that. Niemand vir julle nie? Okay, great. That's amazing. So I thought I'll just mention it. But I'll spend a little bit of talk. So we get the first one we get is hallway talk. That's a small talk style, small talk that we go with. It's like, hey, sexy. Sometimes it can just be a sound. Sometimes it can be a thing, but it's just a means of communication. And like I said, it's every one of those sounds or things that we say is a desire for connection. It's really like hot weather, hot wife, anything like that. It's just a desire for connection. And then they refer to the reporter talk. Reporter talk is, and this is really important. And in my conversations with couples, I figured out that what we assume is normal isn't normal for everyone. It's actually normal to sit around a dinner table at night and share what I did today. It's baseline communication. It's reporter talk. Reporter talk is, this happened. It's like, and men would mostly have a truncated version of it, and women will have a slightly more colorful version of the day. I have this friend, we had these friends, and they always said, the wife would tell a story, but she, like my wife, comes from Namibia. And Namibians are notorious for a bit of color and texture to their stories. You know, it's like, and so the husband, so she's telling about what the builder did in the house and what the builder did in the house. And it's like, and every now and then he would move his head and say, but honey, at least the builder did say that. You know, it's like, and then at some point she says, man, I don't like where you're going to with my story. Because she has a slant. Anyway, the point is reporter talk is something that you need to remind yourself. If you don't have the habit of sitting down at the end of a day and sitting down at the end of the week to just say, this is what happened. I'm going to say that's where we start. That's where we start. Literally just to tell you, because I bring my life home. I bring myself home. And for the moms at home, you know, with a small baby, the stories aren't that entertaining to tell. Or maybe it's very entertaining and colorful, but it's going to be repetitive. So it's really necessary still just to share my life with you. Third, we get what we refer to as intellectual talk. So the question you asked there, so this happened, what do you think about that? What's your opinion about that? Men generally go for the opinions. This is what I think. This is my opinion on it and stuff. And then the next level of communication is this is what I feel. This is how it makes me feel. This is how it moves me. This is what it does to me. This is how it influences my attitude and my affections. I saw a man running across the street today. What's your opinion of that? No, he ran quite well. He looked like a fit man. How do you feel about that? I feel fat. I feel overweight and slow. I feel like I was that man. I wish I was that man. Okay, great. So then we move into the next one, into the loving, genuine talk. It's like, so love, where are you at the moment? Say, I so miss my youth. I so miss the freedom that I had. I love my kids, But I so miss the freedom that I had where I could also just after my work put on my tackies and jog for 8 kilometers or 10 kilometers in the mountain. I miss myself and I miss how I was, you know. Now I'm this serious, boring person, but then I used to be someone, you know, with calves and abs and a personality, and I lost all that. So you move from very simple connection, from a reporter talk to this is what's happening. And I just did this in 5 seconds with you, and I don't even know you. And this was a fictitious story which might or might not be built on true events. Anyway, I'm going to give you opportunity in a moment to actually practice this. And I don't want to, again, please throw one another a softball. Like, have a real conversation that happened this week. So take something real, and intentionally don't rush through it like I did with my story now. Report. You don't have to grunt to have hallway talk moments or stuff. You just start with the reporter talk, and I want you to practice this. I want you to actually to see this as a moment of meaningful connection, not just the exercise. This is a moment because you don't have kids with you and you don't have to rush anywhere. You booked out the day and lunch will only be served later. You have this moment. Enjoy this moment of meaningful connection. But give one another opportunity. I'm going to give you a little bit longer time now, but I really want you to actually practice this. What I actually want is I desire that you see how simple, life-giving, a stupid exercise can be in the presence of God, and to see that this becomes a habit in your home, to have this. Some of you have this habit. I don't want to ask you to raise your hand. Some of you have this habit in your house. Some of you don't. Just before we go there, Philip, I think the second last slide, is communication barriers. Communication barriers is probably I chose the wrong color. Great, but on your right-hand side, you'll see a very opaque, olive-colored triangle, a hill with 3 gates. Jannie Botha, great, he used to be, I think he still is, the Blue Bulls sports psychologist. So Jannie Botha, this is his thing. And everyone else uses it, but I think it's his thing. He says that all of us in life, we know this. There's a time in your life when you have a six-pack and you look amazing and you've got long hair and everything's amazing. And then over the years, it fades unless you do something to maintain the six-pack and the stuff. But life happens, so there are seasons in your life when you lose those things. And it's so with everything else. We have the third law of thermodynamics. Things don't stay on the top, they flow down. Gravity has this effect. So he's saying, he asks a couple of these questions, how many years have you been married? And they say, no, we've been married for 21 years this year. And I say, wow, amazing. So tell me about your marriage. And he figures out, wow, things aren't that well. And he asks them, so is this a new thing? No, we came back from honeymoon and he started with this. And then he just stops them and he says to them, no, you've not been married 21 years. You've been married 21 times the same year. There's no growth in your relationship. You're fighting about the same stuff and you have the same habits. There's no depth. And he's saying what he's found is 3 simple practices has moved him and his wife Dodie up the hill every year. And it's gates. He sees them as gates. There's the gate that I do this practice daily, and we shut the gate behind us. We don't fall back. And we walk up the hill a little bit, and we might slip at some point, but we don't fall further back down this. This is the gate. We don't go back there. And the 3 gates he does so it's part of a communication, part of cultivating intimacy. 3 practical things. And myself and Margriet are very good at 2 of them, and the third one, it's a hit and a miss. Anyway, so the first gate we're really good at. It's a very simple practice that we have. It's a daily prayer that before we go out of the house. Now, it sounds stupid. It sounds really, really dumb. Pray before you leave the house. But you know, with 2 kids in a rush schedule and 2 different times, and someone has to drop the kids and finish the school boxes, it doesn't happen that moment. So it doesn't happen unless you make it a thing. We don't leave the house. And sometimes, Margriet says, and still, wat noem is vleg die hare, pleats Margriet's hair. Hey, that was good for Afrikaans boy. Pleats Margriet's hair. While we're praying together. So it's literally, Jaco and Marlies will sit and he will look her in the eye and say, honey, what's happening in your life today? What's up for your day? And she says, well, I have this client to see, I've got to go shopping, and I must send my wife flowers. Oh, why are you sending your mom flowers? No, it's an anniversary, and Dad passed away 2 years ago. So it's a thing for her. So immediately he hits a heart thing, because he's asking, what are you going to do and why are you going to do that? And then Yaakov will say, okay, love, I will pray for you. And the act of praying for what she's going to face today, over 20 years, they are talking to God together, and he's praying to God that God will do well for her. What does it say about his heart? What does she hear every single day for 20 years? Although we had a fight last night, today he really wants goodness for me. So the practice, the habit, shapes our hearts towards, he really wants the best for me, although we fought last night. Do you see that? Very simple. And it comes down to, what are you going to do today? What can I pray for you? And we pray for that. And sometimes it's nothing special, but it's a simple thing. My wife has been studying, I'll share a little bit later, for the past forever. And it's boring, and it's repetitive, and it's stressful. But the fact that every single day, I remind God in prayer, with my wife present, of a promise that he made her many years ago. And it organizes our whole life around the fact that God really has promised this. I believe she can and she will. It's hell at the moment at work. But she's going to go in there and she's going to conquer this. This too shall pass. The fact she really believes that I believe in her. And I remind her that God said this too will pass. Simple practice. And listen, this is a 5-minute prayer. Sometimes it's a 3-minute prayer because we rushed. This is 5 minutes. Pray for you, pray for Nathan, pray for Marguerite. They pray for me. Simple. Okay, so it's great. Simple practice. Secondly is second gate is the weekly connect and the weekly scheduling, communications thing. What did I coordinate? It's a very simple thing. So we sit down and we know what is going to happen in next week. So we look forward, what's going to happen next week. And next week, so this is a scheduling thing. So we do this. I'm going to see this, this, and this. And the reason why we schedule is so that we can, the question is in all of that, so when am I going to see you? We're going to do this together. And Ross, you have your pastor stuff, and Margriet, you have your hospital stuff. Where's our time? Where's our thing? And listen, Margriet and myself, we suck at date nights. We don't have date nights that often. We don't have a date night out there often, because mostly, as ek hoef, sal ek eerder by die huis wees by haar. Soos ek sal eerder om 'n bord kos sit en eet met haar as wat ek nog 'n keer uitgaan, en ek het nie altyd geld om nog uit te gaan nie. Ek wil nie dink aan stres om nog uit te gaan nie. But the point is, we focus on when will we see each other? When will we actually just relax and open Netflix and pray that God, is there something that isn't blasphemous or off today that we can watch? Just one thing. Just give me one thing, And we find something and we enjoy that together. It's a coordinating our life so that she's not suppressed or stressed. We know what's going to happen. We know the next week. It flows over into a bit longer, but we know the next week. And then the connect thing is that to find that once a week where we have a little bit less hurried, heart-to-heart connections, where I talk about that. So it's like a special time where we just talk. And sometimes, and mostly, I want to say mostly, it's not deep issues. We don't talk deep issues then. There's no slack at date. If we have an issue, we schedule an issue meeting. But this is an on-state. This is lekker. Ons gaan nie nou 'n goeie aand opmors met jy wat kwaad is met my omdat ek regtig verkeerd was nie. Ek maak grappies, julle hoor my, né? Okay. And then the annual planning thing. We get this right. We've been doing it for a few years now. Jannie Botha and his wife go to a really expensive splash-out place for 3 days, and pay lots of money to spa themselves and to do stuff. And then in that time, they enjoy one another, remember that they're married, and it's amazing, and then they plan their year. And they plan 3 things. What do we trust God for growth in this connection of ours, this relationship of what do we want to see at the end of this year? Second thing, what do we want to see in our family and the influence we have in our community? And thirdly, what do we trust God for financially, wealth-wise? What do we want to gain this year? So us, family and influence, finances? What do we trust God for? What are we going to plan for? And then they literally plan the time. And it cultivates these three practices. You see, the daily prayer, baseline. If all you do is a daily prayer before you leave the home, it's amazing. It's amazing, obviously, if you come back and around dinner table, just thank God for the things that you prayed for the day that actually happened. So you do that closing thing, pray daily, plan weekly, and plan annually. Celebrate and plan annually is what they do. And it really helps. It really, at the end of the year, when we do our planning again, go back and say, wow, God, we prayed for this. We planned a few things in our year calendar, and it actually did happen. We prayed this for Nathan, and God, thank you, you came through for him. We prayed this for Marguerite. We prayed this for Margriet. We planned for this, and it happened. It happened. So it's amazing if you can do that. And the reason why I'm putting it in here in the affection, warmth, and encouragement bit is it actually does help. Actually does grow. I'm going to give us 12 minutes now, again. So I said longer, but I'm not going to, So 12 minutes. I want to, Philip, there's let's take it, let's put that levels of communication. Let's put that levels of communication. Philip, just below the levels of communication, there's a slide that says cultivate heart connection, heart talk. A few questions. Thanks, Philip. What was your highs and lows? What causes stress and joy lately? What do you feel? What is your relationship with the child? What's God been telling you lately? These are just questions that the Smellies put in for themselves on a daily basis when they have a connection. Just choose one.